Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, everyone. This is Chrism, and I'd like to invite you to a conversation about your Kundalini awakening experience. Today's conversation is about the dark night of the soul and all of the many aspects that are included within that topic. It's a huge topic, and I want to welcome you to this new understanding. Right now, though, I would like to give my thanks to Amelia Santara and her family, John and Jonathan and Emma and all the extended relatives. I would like to say thank you to Glenn Ola.
May I interrupt?
Yes. Yes.
I am hearing you twice, and I am not sure.
So it's repeating?
Yes. Are you hearing yourself? No? Yes. I would like to ask a listener if she can hear us repeating.
Please, any listeners, if you hear this, if you hear me repeating, I'm trying a new system
Everyone
right now.
Everyone sounds perfect.
Hello, Lisa. Lisa is
perfect.
listening here. It's perfect. Okay, Lisa. Thank you.
On both ends.
Oh, thank you, Lisa. Just a second, Lisa. I'm going to go ahead and continue with my gratitudes. I have, part of the practice, as many of you may know, is that gratitude is a very important thing, and I'd like to give my gratitude to the people who are listening, the people who are calling in right now, like Lisa and some of the other folks. I'd like to go ahead and continue my gratitude to Eileen. For her many gifts to the program, to Christine for the donation of the iMic that I'm using with the iPad here within the studio. So thank you, everyone. Thank you to the listeners in the archives. As you can come back to this anytime you wish, and that includes those who are calling in right now. The archives are there for you. You listen to it as much as you like and download it onto your iTunes or anything like that as well if you like to take this with you on the road. Santara, I believe, has some announcements.
Hello, Chris, and apologies for that. Actually, it was on my end here. So the first announcement that I would like to make is that there is going to be a Kundalini seminar in Ireland. It's a European seminar, and it has been held in Ireland, in County Dublin. I would like to tell you a little bit about it. It is happening on October the 18th, 19th and 20th. It begins on the Friday night at 7 p.m., and it runs right through until Sunday at 4 p.m. Chrism is visiting Europe as a guest, and on his way to Europe, he is stopping over in Dublin. So this is a wonderful opportunity for people who are living in Ireland or living in any part of Europe really, or in the United Kingdom, to come and visit Dublin and visit Chrism for this weekend. Flights into Dublin are extremely good value if you use some of the low-cost airlines such as Ryanair, and I know you can fly in there from the UK for about £40. And I think it's around €50 return from a lot of places in Europe. The venue of where it's going to be is very exciting because it's only 30 minutes from Dublin Airport, yet it is a rural setting. The location is right overlooking the famous UNESCO sites of Newgrange, Noath and Dose. These are three very, very ancient sites. They're older than the Egyptian pyramids. They're megalithic passage tombs. And our venue is really right in the center of this. So a very, very ancient place, and it's going to be a wonderful venue. I'd like to give you the email address that you can write to if you'd like more information, or if you wanted any questions that you'd like to ask me. It is kundalinimatters@gmail.com. Or I also have a phone number, and it is an Irish prefix, so it's 00353 86 029 767. And I'll give you that again. It's 00353 86 And the cost of the seminar is €250, and this includes 2 nights accommodation with a very generous continental breakfast, and you will be collected from the airport or from the nearest town as well. But as I say, write to Kundalini Matters if you would like some more information. So that's what I would like to announce about the seminar, and maybe I could do that again at the end of the show, Chrism. And I'd also like to take this opportunity. I suppose actually it's important to say I was going to begin to speak about donations, and I suppose it's important to know that Chrism is not flying around the world because he has nothing else to do with his money. He has no money. He is a guest of somebody in Europe, and this is what happens when Chrism goes to different locations. So I would like to give you the location that you can go to if you would like to make a donation to support Chrism in the work that he does. Donations are his only form of income. And so the place you can go to is www.ascension-kundalini.blogspot.com, and as I say, you will find in the upper right hand corner a donate button, and you can use that. It's very easy to use. Again, there's absolutely no pressure on anybody to donate, but if you are in a position to do so and you do want to support Chrism, then that is the place to do so. Maybe at the end of the show, Chrism, I could give a little bit more detail about the seminar and give the phone number and the email address again. Looking forward to the show.
Thank you, Amelia. Thank you for the announcements. Thank you to everyone who's joining us today. There are a few other venues where this information can be received, and one of them is Glenn Ola's Kundalini Awakening Systems 1.com website, Kundalini Awakening Systems, and that's the numeral 1.com. Another place would be on to YouTube, where there's somewhere around, there's over 260 videos on the Kundalini, and that would be, if you go into YouTube, just go Chrism Kundalini, and that will come up. And feel free to watch any of those, including the 2 videos that are dedicated to the dark night of the soul. So another area of interest would be a Yahoo group at Kundalini Awakening Systems 1 at Yahoo Groups. And also on Facebook, we have a number of communities. Kundalini Awakening Systems 1. Actually, I'm sorry, that's Kundalini Awakening Systems 2 at Facebook. And the other one is Kundalini Awakening ! And then we also have a Kundalini Ashram, and that is also on the Facebook network, as well as Kundalini Healing, which is on Facebook and the Yahoo Groups networks. So, you know, as much as I've been able to, I'm trying to get this information out here for the benefit of those who are right in the middle of this process right now. And so without further ado, I want to encourage anyone who has any questions about any aspect of their Kundalini Awakening process to feel free to call in at 347-934-0026. That's 347-934-0026. And we do have a caller right now. Her name is Lisa. And Lisa, I'd like to welcome you to the program.
Thank you. I have a very interesting, kind of a touchy question to ask you. I've done and do Kundalini, and I've been exposed to a lot of great teachers that have a lot of ethics and, moral boundary and respect. So, but I have a serious question to ask you. It's about the manipulation and control, and because when you work with the Kundalini, and especially if you're talking about someone that's has mastered it, and I'm not interested in doing it because I could never do that. That's not me. but I'm curious on the format. How someone goes about. I'm trying to phrase this question right. I'm not sure how I want to ask it. I guess have you heard of such a thing?
Such a what thing?
Such a what thing. Yeah, like people using the energy to dominate and control.
Oh, yeah, sure. That's fairly common.
Yeah.
With regards to that, it depends. It depends on the teacher and if the teacher has surrendered to their Kundalini and the Kundalini is going through the teacher to the student, and the student might have domination issues or issues of being too assertive, things of that nature. And if they're overly assertive and they're buying into their ego expression through a Kundalini amplified, overly assertive manner, then then protocols are in place from the Kundalini that will help that person begin to understand that they are not in charge. And I also want to go back a little bit to your statement about mastering the Kundalini. Nobody ever masters the Kundalini, ever.
Right.
It is the Kundalini that masters the individual always.
Like God.
Yeah, exactly. Like God, or sacred male, sacred feminine.
Yeah.
So now there are plenty of people that don't have the Kundalini that are saying that they have the Kundalini, and then they're initiating control and other types of scenarios where people could literally see that this is not the way it's supposed to be. Okay. Now,
right.
People have said that about me as well.
Okay.
So it depends on who you talk to, and it depends really on the particulars of any situation. Now, because I do so many long distance things, and the energy flows through me in such a way that long distance is really not an issue for me. I get accused of a lot of manipulation or a lot of things like, people see me in their dreams, and then, because the Kundalini uses me as a symbol in their dreams, therefore, I am now controlling their dreams in some way. Okay, which is not the case, but it is the case to how they're feeling about it. I can't just throw away what they're feeling. They're seeing me in a dream, and the dream Chrism is saying, okay, you got to do 90 push-ups or whatever, right? And the person doesn't want to do those 90 push-ups, and so, but they feel pressure to do it because they saw it in a dream. And so many times, anything that we see in a dream that has any way connected to us on a conscious level, we'll see as an authority over who we are, and that will become a pressure.
Yeah, I hear you, and I understand what you're saying. I think I'm taking it's even more crazier than that, like the telepathic, where you feel someone telepathically and you feel them in your space, and
well, that's
then
different.
you feel.
I mean, with a like, say for instance, I can only really comment on how I teach people within the Kundalini format. There is the ability to go into a person's space. There is, but it's not given for you don't play with this. This isn't anything that
Exactly. It's not a toy.
Right. It's not a toy. It's a huge responsibility.
Yeah.
And if people have the wrong perception of what you do, then you're in for a real ride of discontent and disrespect and things of that nature. So you have to be very, very careful, always truthful, always giving people the option of, are you comfortable? Do you want to stay? Do you want to go? It's okay no matter what you do. You're all right. Your Kundalini's with you, and that's the main thing. That's how I teach. I give people plenty of options to stop. I always am in communication with them as well. and it's always coming from the Kundalini source within me. There's really, I'm not allowed to teach in any other way, and it doesn't work. If I decided to go into this with a big ego thing, like, oh, okay, I'm going to start manipulating Lisa towards this or that, it's not going to work. It's not going to work.
Right. I've just brought it up because I was in a scenario. I know a group of people that are in this scenario, but I'm intuitive enough to know when to pull away. And I just was curious on, like you just said.
Well, some people need to have that experience too. Some people come into this with a lot of anger, and it's an anger at their father, or say if it's a male authority figure, that goes to the father or an uncle or an abusive person in that individual's life, and they will project that upon a Kundalini teacher because the Kundalini brings all those things up.
And I hear you, yeah. So like you could be projecting and or thinking the Kundalini teacher is a boyfriend, a dad,
exactly,
an ex-husband.
Exactly.
I understand completely.
And it's just for some people, they can go into the Kundalini in a very specific format of surrender, of abandoning themselves into the Kundalini as directed by a teacher. And I'm all for that. Anything that allows a person to surrender themselves to the Kundalini within, by virtue of a Kundalini teacher directing or giving assignments or giving teachings or things of that nature, I'm all for.
Okay.
But not for just the sheer option of manipulation. That just really bores me to tears. Makes me just want to turn the page. If people just want to be manipulated by me or to have me, perform phenomena for them or something like that, I've got other things I have to do.
I got it. Yeah.
You get beyond this whole idea, of wanting or enjoying controlling or manipulating other people. That becomes more work than anything else.
Crazy.
And, frankly, I don't need it. I got enough to do.
I agree with you.
Now,
well, thank you very much.
Well, you're very welcome, Lisa, and thank you for calling in. And feel free to call in any other time, even during this show, if you develop any other questions. Okay?
I love your show. Thank you.
Well, I love you too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Doesn't look like we have other callers, so I'll just go ahead and I'd like to thank Lisa for that excellent question, and it does, it does have a pertinence to what we're talking about now, the dark night of the soul. Now, the first thing I want to say about the dark night is that it does not typically initiate Kundalini awakening. Kundalini awakening in the form of awakening it or activating it is a standalone process between you and your Kundalini, and it is the beginning of an ascension platform. But within that ascension platform, strong levels of purity have to take place. Strong levels of purity have to take place. And within that purification process, certain levels of fear and terror and the controlling elements of fear are explored and are basically pressed from us as we enter into the dark night of the souls. So I do want to say that a person can have a very, very strong karmic compulsion to go into the Kundalini, and one of those directives within that compulsion will be, severe difficulty within the initial aspects of the awakening. You won't know what it is, or all of a sudden you'll be out of your body, watching your body, seeing your body, thinking that you've died, or any number, that your tailbone starts to wag, or your spinal cord feels like there's something alive inside it, and is twisting you this way and that. I mean, these, if you're not cogent or understanding of the Kundalini, these can scare you to pieces, literally scare you right into a psychiatric treatment facility. And this is one of the reasons why I'm doing this radio show, and with Glenn Ola, we have that website, and the YouTube videos are out there. I'm certainly not saying anything bad about the psych wards, although I suppose there's some room for that, maybe a constructive criticism. But I'm trying to keep people out of the psych wards that have Kundalini. This world needs you, the Kundalini awakened, more than ever. Okay, so the initiatory process of Kundalini awakening is not the dark night, although it can seem as terrible as the dark night would ever be. Typically, the Kundalini wants to come in to the human and begin to work on their processes, begin to see how they're responding to supernatural phenomena, how they're responding, what levels of fear do they have. Then based upon the levels of fear, what new information can be given to them in a stressful situation that allow them to test and to be purified within the matrix that has been set up for that individual. So that dark night of the soul for that individual is specifically custom designed for that one individual. And no dark night of the soul will be the same for anyone, because we come into this in a very unique way. We come into this in a way that is reflective of the karma that has brought us to this level of spiritual refinement in the body as we are right now. Okay, so the causation of a dark night of soul is natural. It is a natural expression of the purification elements within a Kundalini awakening process. It can be scary, and you know what? It's supposed to be. It's supposed to be scary. How can you tell how you respond to fear if you don't feel fear? Okay? So understand that and go with that, and if anybody can just let me know that this is coming through with this new microphone I'm using. Lisa, is it coming through again? Is it still coming through? I'm going to put you on here. There you go. Lisa? Lisa, are you there? No? Okay. Well, Eileen or somebody, Brandon, maybe you can call in and let me know that this is reaching outside. I feel it clicking on.
It's coming through, Chrism.
Oh, it is? Okay.
It's coming through because they're saying so in the chat room.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone in the chat room. Thank you very much. Okay, so Dark Night of the Soul will typically occur within 2 to 3 years of the initial activation and awakening sequence of the Kundalini within a body. That's just typical. Everybody's unique, and so it's going to come to them in the time that their Kundalini decides that it's time for them to have this. Not everybody has to have this. Not everyone does, but many, many, many people do. So many that it's this topic is very important, and it is the dark night of the soul can be extreme. I had one as a child. I don't know if I've mentioned this before. I came into my life as a baby with levels of Kundalini phenomena already occurring, and this is from another life where I had Kundalini, and this is a very real understanding that Kundalini comes with you. You don't lose Kundalini. You'll lose the knowledge of it, though. You will lose the knowledge of the Kundalini, the memory of Kundalini. That's the deal. That's the deal you make when you come in behind the veil. If you're from behind the veil, you go in front of the veil, and you don't. The veil of forgetfulness is a real thing. And I know there's a lot of energy in people wanting to see their past lives and understand their past lives, frankly, I think that's kind of defeating the purpose. I don't go into that at all. I mean, you can see levels of, how do you say this? You can see an energetic expression within a person's energetic envelope that will necessarily deal with a past life. You can see a past life reflection. But I don't even look anymore. To me, I like to take the person as they are right now within their process. And I don't worry too much about past life things. And I encourage you not to get overly fixated on past life scenarios, okay? Not to say that, that some of these past life practitioners are doing anything wrong. No. And some of them, they've encountered some very healthy scenarios within that. So, helping people defeat psychosis that comes to them from another life. So that's all fine. They're not dealing with Kundalini though. Okay. I'm dealing specifically with Kundalini, and some of the harshest karma in the world, in the multiverse, is saved for those going into the Kundalini. It's like the Chinese, that ancient Chinese curse. May you balance all of your karma in one lifetime, and that is a very, very true thing, and it's a very, very difficult thing. And Kundalini is one of those experiences that will bring a huge level of karmic distress into a person's experience with it. And so, of course, you get to deal with that karma. It's like, why is everything going so wrong? And or gosh, everything seems to be going so right. Because positive karma is also responded to. It's not all negative. Okay, so the dark night of the soul is a as you come into the Kundalini, the dark night of the soul will come as a form of testing, as a form of initiation, okay, as a form of examining from the inside out a person's response to very difficult phenomena, okay. Typically, and most often, this has to do with fear, and it has to do with the fear of obliteration or the fear of not understanding what is happening and feeling like you're being tossed about like a leaf in the wind, which is not a bad analogy, really. You are being tossed about on purpose. The dark night is not an accidental sequence. It's an on-purpose sequence for the people that are experiencing it. When I had my dark nights as a child, I didn't know what it was at all. I just had to respond as honestly as a child does, and that lasted for about 10 years. And then I had about a 10-year break for adolescents to move in, and then from the age of my early 20s on, I had another surge of dark night, and then after the Kundalini came, another surge of dark night. You could see that the Kundalini was going, oh my God, this guy's, what a mess. So, with that in mind, as I grew and matured within my Kundalini experience, I was given information about why this was occurring to me, and the reason why a lot of the weird and interesting phenomena that occurred for me was because, even though I didn't know it at the time, the Kundalini was developing a teaching protocol within me, and without having a direct experience or an authentic experience, an understanding of what it is I was being groomed to teach, well, that I wouldn't be able to teach it with any degree of honesty. Okay, so I've had these dark nights. I've had everything that I talk about. Okay, dark nights are difficult, and they're supposed to be difficult, but they are not supposed to kill you. Many people die because of the dark night of the soul that they experience. When your reality matrix begins to fall apart, say, for instance, you're just sitting in your living room and the floor just falls away and you see this dark emptiness where your feet are just kind of like you're in the easy chair, and you look at your feet, and below your feet you just see blackness. pitch blackness, and you feel yourself being pushed towards falling into that pitch blackness, and then all of a sudden, wham, you've fallen through the floor in your living room in your waking state, your conscious waking state, and now you're flailing about in this dark mass of emptiness, this amazing, terrible emptiness, and there you are, and all of a sudden you go into panic zone. You're screaming, or you're yelling, or you're in a deep level of fear, and then boom, you're right back in your chair. The floor is as it was, and that was just a small taste of what's coming forward. Some people will have different scenarios. They'll just see pieces of the wall, pieces of their reality float away. I was given a question the other day from the Yahoo community about the grid, and have I seen the grid? Well, I can always see the grid, so that's not a big deal. But this is the Kundalini manipulating the grid, taking you right out of it, taking you right out of this dimension and into a dimension of fear testing that the Kundalini has specifically designed for you. Everything you see in your dark night will have a connection to you. Every entity that you experience, every equation, every question, every kind of choice and decision or response to choices and decisions that you have within the dark night is supposed to be there. You are being tested, and it's not an accidental test. Sometimes you'll have entities that are present. Those entities are sent to once again test you. Some of them will be quite fearful. Fear evoking. I mean, the Matrix has nothing with in comparison with what the Kundalini can bring to you. And once again, I'm going to say, accept the dark night. Accept it for what it is. Know that this is what it is. Now, some of you who are listening to this may not have to have a dark night because you're following the safety protocols, or you're a private student of mine, or you're doing, you're following those safeties, and whether it's the safeties that I wrote, but it's some aspect of the safeties. You're being very tolerant, you're being very forgiveness, you're being very gracious, you're being very helpful, you're being very loving all the time. Okay, this typically won't trigger a dark night of the soul experience right off the bat. Maybe later for the person. You have to remember that just as we can feel joy and bliss and love and all these beautiful, beautiful love-based emotions, so do part of us encapsulate the emotions of hatred and darkness and anger and violence, revenge and grudges and things of that nature. Those are the aspects that need to be balanced out of the equation. You can keep the love and the bliss and the joy and the forgiveness and the honesty and the truth and the surrender and all of these things. You keep those. Those are the rungs of the ladder towards your ascension. But the other parts, they are still important, and they are just as important as the positivity. Yet what they are is they're giving you an opportunity to free yourself from the biological, societal, enforced slavery to some of the hurtful natures that we have in our society now. We foment a lot of difficulties for people in our society, Western society. I'm just going to go with United States of America, 2013, September 11. At this point, we're fomenting a lot of negativity towards to many different countries, not just one in the Mideast, but we're fomenting levels of control and levels of hurt that a Kundalini person growing up in this society can begin to receive as a level of programming. So if you're a child right now and you're buying all the videos, the blood and guts videos and all of those things, well, that is a programming level that if you have the Kundalini later on, you're going to have to get it balanced. You're going to have to balance out the programming of your society. Also balancing out the programming of your parents. Parents are wonderful, wonderful, wonderful sources of fear and love. Lots of love, lots of beautiful love, but also lots of fear and lots of their own programming that they received as a child growing up and so on and so forth. The person with the Kundalini gets to begin to purify those natures, purify those experiences and those teachings and that programming. And when in that purification process, you get to release those processes. But some processes go deeper than our conscious mind can retrieve. Some processes go into our past lives, and once again, we're not allowed to remember those. Okay? Sometimes you do a little bit, but for the most part, you don't get to remember too much of them. And as that occurs, that's an invitation for a dark night. Dark nights will typically begin to take one out of their zone of comfort with regards to what reality truly is. If you start to see your floor dissolve beneath your feet and into darkness, into blackness, well, you can begin to understand that this is going to impact your waking consciousness. This is going to really, really place you in a very, very difficult, fearful situation. But you know this now, you see. You know this now. You have the information. I have gone through 3 dark nights. I know how they are. They can come over and over and over again. Typically, though, you only get one. Typically. The only reason I had to have so many is because, I didn't know what it was, and I was resisting, and I had to suffer a lot before I could get to where I am now. You don't have to. You do not have to suffer the way I did. This is why you hardly hear anything of my process. I really, really resist telling anybody about the difficulties of my process because it doesn't apply to them. It does not apply to everyone. Your Kundalini is the master teacher for you, but sometimes it knows that you'll need to hear it from another person who's perhaps walked the path before you have. And this is where the Kundalini will contact me through you. It'll send you to something that Chrism is doing or whatever. I don't know of anybody that does what I do with regards to Kundalini counseling. I wish there were, but I don't. There isn't anybody. I mean, a lot of the people who are saying they're a good Kundalini counselor for a DNS or a dark night soul, they're using demonic entities in order to. It's just a mess. Stay away from magic. Stay away from that. Stay away from people who are pushing fear at you as a way to control you. You don't need to be controlled. It's hard enough as it is. Okay? Stay away from those people who want to take advantage of the dark night in a way to manipulate your life. Don't do that. Don't go to that person. As Lisa said, she has a high degree of intuition. Well, use your intuition. Be open to what your intuition is telling you. Not in a fearful way, but just in a way it's like, okay, is this person appropriate for me? That's a question that doesn't have any fear in it at all. It's all a degree of appropriateness. Is it appropriate? Or is that person appropriate? So within that context, I want to bring you into a DNS. The person may or may not know that they have Kundalini. If they don't know they have Kundalini and they're having a very difficult DNS, they may just kill themselves. It's fairly common. This is how we lose, this is how we lose 33% of the people that come into Kundalini. Now, of course, the divine knows all, and that suicide is forgiven. And they will come back, and they will get to have the Kundalini again, and they will get to try again, because we are all striving. We are all striving to evolve. Okay, forgiveness is a very real, tangible thing, and you are also forgiven for whatever intransigence you may develop. You are forgiven for it. A Kundalini person that has the DNS and then commits suicide, well, okay, they have more fears to work on, and the next life will be, a good dose of those fears that they can continue to work on. I don't want how do I say this? What I've been given to do is to help people not commit suicide, help people to know. When you have knowledge about a DNS or a dark night soul with regards to the Kundalini, you have power. You have power to mitigate your fear. And that's the whole point. Remember, it's a fear test. You're not there just because Kundalini's sitting back with the popcorn. Oh, God, look at that Christmas doing. It's not that at all. There's a very definitive goal within it, and in many cases it's getting rid of the control that fear has over the individual. And so, of course, how do you get rid of fear? Well, you have to experience fear. It has to take you over, and you have to be given an experience that is so amazing to you, and in some cases so brutal to your sense of identity and your sense of reality, that fear is not far away. It is easy to fall into fear, into these things. And so once the person falls into fear, then they are watched as to how they handle it. But also when they come out of that particular aspect of the DNS for that day or that night or whenever it's occurring, how are they handling their normal life within this really terrifying, supernormal life? What will happen is you'll have the DNS and you'll have your regular life. And the DNS will sometimes impose its will and the experience behind that will on your daily life. Not typically in a life-threatening way, but that life-threatening is going to be from your response to the fear. That is how the life can become threatened. And so you have to be very, very, very cogent of what is occurring. Listen to what I'm saying. Watch those 2 videos I have on the YouTube channel, Chrism Kundalini. Go there and watch those videos. You do not have to hold on to your fear or become a result of your fear, i.e., your death or your inception into a psych ward or something like that. You don't have to go that way. Okay, you are being tested with fear, and it's not anything that you cannot handle. You can handle this. Now, when the floor falls away and you're spinning in the darkness and there's nobody there, and you're being crunched by that amazing level of loneliness and absolute abyss darkness. You're out of time. You feel like you're there forever. Don't lose your trust in your Kundalini. Keep the trust in your Kundalini during any DNS as strong as you possibly can. If you have a teacher like me, then keep your trust in the Kundalini and your teacher. You fill your dark night with trust. You fill your dark night with surrender. You allow the dark night to do anything it wants to you. You're not afraid anymore. You have that confidence and the competence that comes with confidence. Okay? And eventually your dark night is going to shift into another area where it knows that you need to have fear and the fear needs to be balanced. But you'll go into that with the same thing, and you'll be able to begin to forgive the fears that are coming to you and the machinations of fear. So let's talk about the machinations of fear. machination of fear is the action of having a solid floor under your feet and then watching it dissolve. That is an activity that is designed to cause you fear. I'm going to suggest if you start seeing that floor open up under your feet, jump in. Don't be afraid of the DNS. It's a purification process. So allow yourself to experience the blackness, the void. People hate the void. Well, I kind of like it, I'll be honest with you. There's a lot of punch in the void. But you can't see it until you've developed the senses that allow you to see it. So for you, it's this dark, scary, frightening abyss of loneliness and mortal danger and fear and terrifying and all of these things. And it is all those things. Believe me, it is absolutely all those things. And some of the entities that you may encounter while you're there are, once again, they're custom designed to scare you. And so, of course, they will scare you. But this knowledge that I'm giving to you is also custom designed for you by the Kundalini. My Kundalini knows you. There is nothing that it does not know. And so it knows you. It knows you're having this. It knows that you are ready to have information. Society in the Western societies of this world are ready to have this information, or I wouldn't be allowed to give it to you. My mouth would freeze up. My vocal cords would freeze up. The Kundalini would not let me speak. That's all you would hear. Me trying to get words out. Okay, so you are not powerless within the DNS unless you need to be powerless. Because once again, if one of our fear equations is being afraid of not having power, well then of course your power is going to be stripped from you, and your experience of not having power is going to help your evolution occur by facing it and letting it go, taking the energy out of that fear. And you'll do this with each and every fear that comes along. It's extremely effective in eradicating fear from people or pushing them over the edge. Pushing them over the edge. I'd just as soon not have that occur for you. And the Kundalini agrees. The Kundalini, they don't need to do this. They just need a little of information. And so here we are, giving you that information. Now, if you have any kind of an experience with a DNS or entities or anything that is frightening or, on that kind of a level, I want you to call in right now. Don't be afraid to call in. Don't be afraid to let your voice be heard. The number in the United States, it's an area code 347, and then the number is 934-0026. 347-934-0026. Please feel free to call in. Plenty of people will have overlays of a DNS in their everyday life. Now, this I did not talk about in the videos so much. The overlays occur when you're beginning to descend into the DNS. For me, it was I'd get little pieces of it at first, and I was like, "What's going on?" I see the walls are waving. I mean, like a wave, like you see. They're just starting to dissolve, and I would quickly blink my eyes and say, "That can't be happening. That's not real," and then it would go back into place. But then it would come back a little bit later and, start waving again, or I'd start seeing patterns in the tiles, This is probably TMI, but I travel a lot, as some of you know, and Amelia's right. I have no money, but people pay my passage here and there, and so people are asking me to come to certain areas. When I go into these areas, these airports, they have these little tiles on the floor And these tiles, as I look at them, begin to form into sacred geometrical designs that are moving. And these things can begin to move, and then you just kind of see the tiles can just fall away. You start seeing and I can see this now even, but it doesn't put me into a dark night. It can for people who don't know what they're seeing. You may find that the crisscross tile or the Super 7 cross tiles that form hexagrams. You'll find that there are lines of grid work. You'll start to see the etheric grid. They'll follow the grid work, and you'll also be able to manipulate that a little bit. Sometimes you can fall into it, and then the biggest fear is, how do I get out of the floor of this restroom in this German airport while you're sitting on the toilet? Don't try this at home. Don't try it at home. Well, maybe if you do have to try it, maybe home is the best place to try it rather than the airport. I quickly came out of it and went on my way, but that's only because I knew what was occurring. Imagine if you didn't know what was occurring. How close to the psych ward would you be then? Especially in a foreign country where you don't speak the language. Okay, so the DNS can happen. It can overlay into your waking existence. And that's part of the deal, too. That's part of the whole fear matrix that is being purged from you, is to lose control over your life during your conscious waking moments. It's one thing to lose control over your life during a nighttime dream sequence. Okay. Okay, wow, I was killed in the dream sequence, but here I am. It seemed fine. But with Kundalini and with the DNS, well, it's right there in your face right now, real time. You're watching that person walk right into a wall, and, what? God, that just looked like a normal person. They just disintegrated into that wall. Weird. And you start seeing people looking at you. And they'll have maybe a malevolent expression on their face, but they'll just stare at you. And this will include little kids. All of a sudden, you'll start perceiving people doing very, very antisocial behavior around you. One person who was telling me about their DNS would see, she'd ride the bus, and she's riding the bus, and she just turns her head. She looks across to the person sitting in the seat across the aisle from her, and they're doing something of a self-stimulation, shall we say? As they look at her sitting across, she's just like going, "Oh my God, what is going on here?" This had never happened to her before. Or when she gets off the bus and she's walking somewhere in San Francisco, little kids do extreme antisocial behavior right in front of her, almost as if they're doing it to her. They're like testing her. It's like, how far is she going to fall into this? How far is she going to go? What can she handle? Let's do the worst that we can do as much as we can do until she falls. We want her to fall. That seems to be the ideology of the entities that are there. And, and of course, this person, is in a very sensitive stage of her development. And so hopefully she received a little bit of help with that. If any of you are beginning to have this, give me a call or listen to this broadcast or watch the DNS videos that I have on YouTube. Now, if you're just seeing entities, and let's just say you're having an issue with some of the sexual based entities, they're there basically to drain as much life force from you as they can get away with at any single point in time. This is not so much a DNS. This is more of a teaching for you to protect your space. And so if any of you are having that who are listening, don't worry so much about incubus or succubus or any of those things. You can control how much of their stimulation upon you that you need in order to get away or in order to help them be disinterested in you. Their whole purpose is to feed off of you, just like any kind of a parasite. They just feed off of you energetically. It's the same thing as a mosquito. And I want you to treat them like a mosquito. They are not in control of you. You are in control of you, especially during the DNS. You are in control of how you respond to every phenomenal aspect that occurs to you in the DNS. Okay? You don't have to be afraid. It is not a rule. The rule is you have to experience it. If it's happening to you, then you have to experience it. Doesn't happen to everybody. Not everybody gets Kriyas. Not everybody sees entities. Not everybody has everybody else's phenomena with the Kundalini, and that includes the dark night of the soul. Not everybody gets one, and then not everybody gets one in the same way as I mentioned earlier. So know this and understand this and begin. If you're having this now and you're just too shy to call up, and that's fine, you take this information with you into the next sequence of your DNS. And don't you listen to anything that is advocating fear in your experience. Yeah, you'll have some discarnate entity, some little being or some big demonic type being. It's like, yes, you will be afraid. And don't listen to that Prism guy. You don't know anything. You just laugh. It's like, no, I will not be afraid. Stand up for yourself. Do not let yourself be controlled by fear. Because if you let it, it will control you. And it can end you. And we don't want that to happen. Kundalini people are not that common. We need to keep as much of you on this earth, on this planet, as we can to balance out some of the real negativity that is happening here on this planet. Okay? You are very, very, very important people, VIPs. You are KVIPs. And understand that and accept that about yourself. You do not need to be afraid of a dark night of the soul. You need to understand that this is what it is, that you're in the middle of it, and it's okay. Let the fears go. Forgive the fears. Forgive yourself. Forgive the Kundalini. Trust the Kundalini. It may have to show you the worst of the worst that you've ever experienced. It may have to show you certain elements of karmic experience that you've never had in this lifetime, that you don't really feel connected to, but you may have to experience it because it is still with you from another lifetime. Remember, karma doesn't go away just because we're not familiar with it or we don't accept it as a possibility. Karma just goes, oh, okay, they don't accept it as a possibility. Well, okay, we'll just go on and help them with their karma anyway. You know, reincarnation was removed from some belief systems like Christianity early on. Early on, reincarnation was removed from the knowledge stream in the Council of Nicaea in the 5th century. So, you know, it has been there. It has been there. But people have decided that they want to have more control over the levels of fear and reality that people experience so that they can, you know, as Lisa mentioned, manipulate them. I'm saying don't go there. If you don't fear, then you're not manipulated. You can't be manipulated. If you're not afraid, then what can they do? What can anything do? And if you're not afraid, therefore you have reached a level of Kundalini that embraces the fearlessness and the trust that a person needs in order to go further into the Kundalini beyond a DNS. There's lots of phenomena and lots of things to experience after a dark night soul sequence. Okay, if you have a lot of fear, now I'm speaking to the women right now. In our culture, in the Western Europe, United States, Australia, Mexico, typically women, because of the level of strength or self-confidence that they may or may not have, are prone to having episodes of fear, perhaps more so than your typical man. Fear of molestation, fear of rape, fear of being taken advantage of, fear of being brutalized, or in some way experiencing difficulties just because you're a woman. Well, you know what? You are just as strong spiritually and energetically, and even more so than any human male. And within a Kundalini context, you have no reason to fear, because you have the divine behind you, helping you to balance away your fears, to purge away your fears. Okay? For the men, great strength and great intimidation sometimes, often actually, hides levels of fear and levels of inadequacy that many men feel. They know that, oh, well, I'm a man, I'm supposed to be this, and that. I'm supposed to be, a strong man. I'm supposed to be brave and courageous and give my life for anybody who might be in distress. That's kind of what we're trained as children when we watch Popeye or we watch Superman or any of those cartoons that we bonded with as children. And those psychological programs have residue within our current conscious expression. And so the DNS may look at those residues and go, okay, well, let's go ahead and let's devise a DNS for Chrism here, because let's see, he was watching Mighty Mouse and Superman and Batman, and okay, let's go ahead and do a DNS about not being powerful enough in the face of an enemy or something of that nature. Okay, so once again, we are looking at deep, deep, deep purification. Purification that goes beyond your existent corporeal expression and into the past when you were developing your current corporeal expression, or 5 bodies of your Kundalini equation. So if you're having any of this right now, and you don't mind talking to it, you don't have to use your real name. Call 347-934-0026. 347-934-0026. Call in and let us know what's happening with you, and maybe there's some way that we can help you. Santara, I see another caller. Is that another caller I see down there? Hello? Well, I'm sure she'll let me know. So one of the aspects of the DNS is typically entities, and they'll come in, demonic shape and expression. They'll come in as little kids that are, because they know that, the little kids being, we see them as absolutely pure and innocent, but when you see them evil, then it's really, it's like that Chucky horror movie, which I never saw, but I did see the advertisements for it back then when it was new. And, it's a very disturbing feeling for people. And so, it'll come as that. Or it'll come as little evil creatures that I have seen. And they're called flesh divers. Flesh diver, D-I-V-E-R. And these flesh divers will jump into your flesh, literally, jump into your flesh, and they will start swimming through your energetic anatomy. And you can feel them. You can feel them swimming through your energetic anatomy, and they can become parasitical and stay in that level, for years and years. And once again, I don't want you to be afraid of that. The whole purpose for them jumping into you may be for you to become afraid and through that fear to become controllable through corporeal machinations. So as Lisa mentioned, you have some of these teachers that may be gifted and what are they doing to their students? Are they manipulating them in some way? Are they going against the ethical values and morality of that individual person? What's going on? A lot of the same things that people said about me as they try to diminish the information that I'm giving to people. No matter what they do, the Kundalini will shine forth. The Kundalini will shine forth, and it has total mastery over this physical realm. Total mastery. It can lose posts. It can take stuff right off of the web. It can just crash things. I mean, it has total mastery. Divinity has mastery over the physical plane. And you need to understand that. And you need to understand that Kundalini is the extension of the divine into your body. It is you're literally being touched by God. You're being touched by God. And within that touch, there are certain purification protocols that need to be given so that as you're touched by God, the power of the touch from God does not destroy you. And it can. It can be way too much. Way too much. Trust me on that. God is a very, 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 very powerful source of this force, and to have it touching you within a Kundalini context means that it's touching you very, very, very softly, but it's preparing you to receive more and more and more that energy. That's what the Kundalini is all about. It builds. With the chakra system, it builds a bridge between the mundane physical plane and the divine supernormal plane. Okay? It skips right over the astral and the mental and the causative planes. It goes basically from zero to divinity. Now, you'll still, of course, get to visit certain areas of the astral and the mental and the causal planes, but here, within the context, it's very much like Huna. Like what the Huna people in Hawaii understand, the high self being the Amakua, which is both male and female, and so it's split at the top. It's like a Y at the top, and the trunk of the Y is you, and then the two parts of the Y that branch out are the sacred male and the sacred female, or the Amakua within the Huna format. The Huna format represents 3 levels of consciousness. The Unihili, which is the ego or the small self. The Uhane, which is the adult person, the higher mental functioning person. And the Amakua, which is what the Uhane wants to become. The Uhane is what the Unihipili wants to become. And I'm sure this is clear as mud right now. My information about Huna comes from Max Freedom Long, and he's the only one that I will suggest you take any information about Huna from. And that includes the people that are selling his books. They are clueless. They do not know what Max Freedom Long was saying. They just kind of turned it into a money-making thing. So you just go with the initial read on Max Freedom Long's understandings of Huna, and let Max Freedom Long explain this to you. He does it in a very, very gifted way. He's passed, but his words shine brightly in our current expression. Max Freedom Long did a very, very great service, not only for anybody expressing an interest in Huna, but also for the Hawaiian people and for the integration of humanity on those islands. Okay, so Huna. One of the main reasons I mentioned Huna is the uhane, the middle self, is not allowed to communicate directly with the Kundalini or the amakua. It must go through the small self. So if you look at it, if you write amakua, uhane, unihipili on a piece of paper, a J develops. So the J is the uhane going through the small self, the unihipili, in order to communicate with the high self, amakua. Okay, so this is a very, very advanced understanding of how we communicate with divinity. Now, with the Kundalini awakening, well, all of this process is kind of forced upon you. The DNS is as much a refinement of the ego and its fears as it is of the emotional body or the mental body or the physical body and their fears. Okay, because the ego anatomy asserts itself into various places in the other four bodies of expression. And so when you have the DNS and you have this extreme purification take place, the DNS will probably draw its agenda for you from your ego insertion into the other four bodies. So, mentally, what is the ego? Where are the fear issues in the mental body that the ego has produced? Or where are the fear issues in the emotional body that the ego has produced? Being abandoned or being, having a spouse leave you or being the person that has to do the leaving and all of these things have very, very, very tangible experience within a DNS. You during your DNS, as you're just wriggling out there in the deep black, the abyss, a feeling of tremendous abandonment may come to you, and this will be something that's given to you directly from the Kundalini. You'll feel lost. You'll feel timeless. You'll feel abandoned forever, and you're just turning and torquing, or you're just sitting, and there's nothing. There's no body. There's no you. There's no light. There's no substance. There's nothing. You talk about solitary confinement. Okay, it's a pretty rough deal. It's a pretty rough deal. But as you're having this, once again, I will say, trust your Kundalini process, especially when you're being tested this way. Get rid of your fears as best you can. Go out of your way to get rid of the fear. Make it a priority. Test yourself. Give yourself your own little dark night soul. Okay? Look at what the Kundalini is trying to bring up karmically for you and engage the Kundalini with getting rid of that karma, forgiving that karma. You can do a lot if you just know what's going on, and our society does not support that knowledge. I wish it did. The fact that I'm even allowed to say this and that I haven't been jerked off the web or I haven't been, slapped for giving these Kundalini teachings is great, but I'm fairly unknown as well, and so who knows what may happen down the way. But if anything like this happens down the way, what will I do? I will trust my Kundalini. I trust that divine source within me, as I'm suggesting that you also trust the divine source within you. Okay. So if you're having any questions about this or any other subject within the Kundalini Awakening experience, please call in 347-934-0026. Santara, can you give a different perspective in your experience with the DNS, if you've had one?
Okay, Grism. Well, when I was listening to you, an awful lot of what you said resonated with me. When you were talking about the floor disappearing, I wouldn't have experienced such visual things, but I experienced everything it was almost in a spatial way. So I was functioning in my everyday life, but I was in that spatial hole. in a spatial way. It's hard to explain. I didn't see it, but I felt it in my being. I felt it in my vision. I felt it in every part of me.
And how did that feel to you?
I mean, even as I say it, and I can remember the terror that it was, because I was so on my own with it. It was so not part of what I knew I should, in inverted commas, be feeling. It was just not reality. And other things used to happen as well. There would be sounds and things like that I would hear, that nobody else would hear. And there were times when I was absolutely terrified, and I would have had panic attacks. Fear was huge for me. I didn't know at that stage that I was in a Kundalini activation sort of a thing was going on for me. Later, when I did begin to realize that, when I had my awakening event and when I began to see things visually. Now, I also had things happen at night. I mean, it was all about fear. And it was all about the fear controlling me and, me allowing and not allowing that as I struggled. I mean, I often look back at Chrism and I think, oh, if only I had met you or had your teachings then. But I realize now that's not the way it was to be for me, because I really understand fear. And I understand when you say that understanding it, I had to know that, I think, on some level before I could not feel fear. If that makes sense. Am I making sense?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So I mean, the thing about the Dark Night Soul is that it passes. Like when I then came to understand, to meet the void, that was probably when things completely. I mean, that was very fearful for me as well. But it turned out as I went through it, and with your teachings too, and it turned out that the void isn't what I thought it was at all, and it doesn't go away, and it's sort of with me all the time, and it's okay. It's like an extension of, it's actually so okay. I can't put words on it more than that.
The void is fairly cool, I have to admit, but once again, like you, I didn't see it that way when I first got into it. It was just a scary thing. It's unknown, and it's unexplained unknown. It's not, nobody's there going, okay, Chrism, now we're going to put you into your dark night of the soul. And here's the void. There's nothing like that. So you have to really, there was nothing like that. We are having that now, though. People are receiving that information now. So this is the time.
There's so many sensations. It's like you're experiencing for real what is not, but it is not. It's very hard to explain, but it's kind of incomprehensible on some ways,
I agree.
But it's a wonderful once the fear goes, and once you surrender to the Kundalini and to what has been shown and experienced, the solitary aspect of it and everything, the fact that there are no reference points, all of these things become amazingly okay. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah, there's a real thank you, Centaura. There's a real positive upswing connected to the DNS that, as it begins to resolve itself within you, or you begin to resolve itself within you, i.e. taking your fear or reprioritizing what it is you choose to be afraid of, you begin to open up to the areas of the abyss that is just beautiful, just gorgeous. I have been taken in certain ways. When I started doing astral projection back, feels like 1,000 years ago, back in the early pre-Kundalini part of my process, well, I would be taken to certain areas that I needed experience from, and just that being literally taken through the abyss to a planet or to a place where I was to be given tests. It was just amazing to me. And because I was being taken there in a response to a question that I had or concern that I had, made it that much safer. And so what I'm saying to those of you that will be having a dark night later on or are having a dark night right now, there is a light at the end of that tunnel, but you're not allowed to see it, and I don't want you to try. I want you to stay in that dark night until you can resolve your fear issues. But know that there is an end to this, and it doesn't mean that you die. It just basically means that you begin to work consciously in controlling how fear causes you to make certain decisions and take certain choices. How are you controlled by your fear? Well, the Kundalini doesn't, it knows that it's coming to you. It's infusing your body as we speak. And it's, this person's being given a lot of power, and yet they have these really, really horrid fears locked up in their body. Well, we're going to have to get rid of that. Sacred male and sacred female say to each other, well, let's look at our Kundalini child, this Chrism child. And, he's got some really good fear handles for us. Let's go ahead and use some of those fear handles and see how he does it. And then from there, we can begin to purify him in a greater way. And this is exactly what takes place. You're being given an opportunity to work on your fears, to balance your fears, to disentangle yourself from being controlled by fearful people or events. Okay? If you've been raped in your life, and it was a scary, scary thing, which it most of the time would be, and this thing keeps coming back to haunt you and haunt you and haunt you, well, that may be part of your DNS protocol because you need to get it out of you. It doesn't mean that you don't have the experience. It just means that the experience no longer controls you. It no longer takes over your conscious choice. Okay, this is very, very, very important. So look at it this way. Realize that the dark night is part of your enlightenment. There's a certain level of brilliance that needs to come from you that your allegiance to fear can interfere with. And I want you to take out that allegiance to your fear. Doesn't mean that you become so fearless that you start playing soccer on the freeway during rush hour. I'm not talking about that's just stupidity. It's a big difference.
Can I interrupt you, Chrism?
Yeah.
Seems like a good time. Yeah, there's a caller on the line, Laura, and she has made the point that her dark night soul might be simple emotion, depression, anxiety, and I'm saying she'd like to speak with you. She hasn't listened to the whole show, but she would like to speak with you and maybe
tie her in. Bring her on.
Yep, here she comes.
Let your finger hover, Centaur. Hi.
Well, hello.
Hello. Hi. What's your name?
So, Lauren.
Hi, Lauren. Hello.
Lauren. So I feel kind of badly, number one, because I'm extremely unfamiliar with the terminology Dark Night of the Soul, never really even heard of it before, and I kind of jumped into the show a little bit late. And in the chat room, I'm talking with another person, and it seems I feel as if my experience was not as severe, so I feel like it wasn't really necessarily a DNS. Maybe it was just situational emotions and things like that. How could you know the difference? Or do you just
how long have you been experiencing a Kundalini expression?
I'm not really sure because until maybe 2.5 months ago, I'd never even heard of Kundalini, and so I'm still kind of learn it.
Describe to me what your symptoms are.
Well, I've actually spoken with you before. Are you
the woman in Germany?
Show.
You're in Germany,
yes.
right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Hi.
I thought that was you, but I wasn't. I thought that was you, but I wasn't going to be so brazen.
It's me.
Hello. And so just so everybody knows that I've had a Skype session with Lauren, and we talked about many things, and so she's definitely inside of the Kundalini. Okay, so I know that
thank
already.
you, because I still start to doubt it sometimes because of things that are going on.
Well, just if you can describe some of your symptoms for the audience.
Well, I have had chronic headaches that are migraine level of pain, but the closest thing doctors can say is they're tension headaches. For about 10 years.
Kundalini people can have migraines, and they can be the migraine can be initiated by bright lights or things of that nature.
Mine are usually concentrated right where my third eye is usually.
Sure.
But I've also had back pain from my sacrum, the base of my spine, all the way up through my head. Terrible back pain with sometimes extremely violent back spasms.
What we would call Kriyas. Yeah, I mean, Lauren, you're basically following a fairly classical expression of Kundalini, but you're not in a position currently to really surrender into it. It could be otherwise, because I think you would have popped by now. I think that there are some areas of your life, as we discussed, that need to change first so that your Kundalini can come full force within you. Right now, I think it's just biding its time and helping you to mitigate your current circumstances in a way that allow you to have this in a way that is free from, say, the psych ward, free from incorrect medical diagnoses or psychological diagnoses, things of that nature. Your pain in your spine will continue until you're able to manifest the changes in your life that need to be given, so that the freedom of the flow up the spine and out the top of the head can be given. This is what I was talking about at the beginning of the show, surprisingly. That
which I missed, of course.
That's the inception or the beginning activation of Kundalini often has very similar symptoms to what you're describing. The migraines at the third eye, and you may even feel a bulge from the third eye going from inside out, but that isn't painful typically. Your nostrils may start to flare really wide. The back pain you should have back pain all the way through the lower sacrum down into the tailbone and radiating up. That's right. That's just it. Don't resist it.
Well,
if you can. If you cannot resist it, or I know you're taking a lot of medications too, yeah?
No,
really?
I'm not actually.
You stopped.
I actually took your advice. If you want me to explain a little bit, just for other people who weren't in the conversation,
sure.
We spoke over 2 months ago, and I was, like you said, on a lot of medication. I had taken a multitude of different pain medication, not narcotics, but other type of pills. Topamax was the worst one that I can remember of the pain pills. But I was on different anti-anxiety medicines, such as Klonopin or Xanax, and I was also on Prozac. And
pretty heavy tranks. Those are heavy tranks.
Yeah, and the prescriber was trying to up my dose of the Prozac. And that was right about the time that I had the conversations with you, and you were like, oh, you need to stop that. And I also was on trazodone for sleep, and that had just switched over from other things. So I've been on, at a minimum of probably 10 to 15 different medications over the last year and a half. And after I spoke with you...
Many of these are SSRIs. And because of the rechanneling effect of the SSR, selected serotonin reuptake inhibitors, that would cause you to have very, very severe headaches too, because the Kundalini won't let the pharmaceutical ignorant ideology reformat the channels in your brain. It will resist that, and that resistance will be painful.
Yeah, absolutely, and that would explain why I have such a high tolerance and to medication, and also that it seems to metabolize through my system at a very, very rapid rate. And also Adderall. I've got to add the Adderall in there. And after I spoke with you, I had my best friend since we were 15 years old come and stay with me, and she's been a vegan for years. She's introduced dairy now into her diet, but she's traveled all over the world and just lived among the people. She's all about love. She's such like an earth child person. And when she stayed with me, it really was a very, very, very large transformation. I ended up just stopping cold turkey, which I do realize was probably not a smart decision, but I was incredibly lucky that I did not have it. Really too many negative repercussions of stopping the medications abruptly.
You have the Kundalini. You have the Kundalini, and I think the Kundalini was telling you in many ways, including pain, that this isn't the way that it wants you to go, and so it may have mitigated the backlash from the cold turkey, which I never recommend. You always want to titrate
and you
off
had
of
even
SSRIs.
said that to me. It was almost unintentional. I just stopped taking it. I didn't remember to. Yeah.
I have to say, Lauren, that I'm not an MD, and I think I made that clear to you during our conversation.
Absolutely.
That I'm not an MD, and I'm not giving anybody medical advice. So I just got to put that out there.
And I actually did speak to my grandmother, who's been a nurse for over 50 years and specializes in mental health and is very familiar with all of those medications. And she said things that were extremely similar, if not the exact same thing that you told me. So I wasn't going into this without medical advice from a professional. I still just kind of forgot to kind of take the medicine. And I changed my diet drastically. My friend and I were doing yoga and stretches and talking about spirituality. And I was almost on a vegetarian diet, except my poor husband was like, are we ever going to eat meat again? So I cut out almost all caffeine. I think green tea was probably the most caffeine. When I used to drink those energy shot drinks like they were water, I used to drink 3 of them a day sometimes. I haven't touched one of those in well over a month and a half. And I started doing yoga on a semi-regular basis to a regular basis. And my back pain went away. My headaches went away.
Yep.
My joint pain went away. Everything went away. And
That's
felt
the Kundalini.
better than
Kundalini's
I felt
talking to you.
I was 19 years old, yeah. And for some reason, I just kind of started backtracking again, and I started eating Doritos and Pringles, and I stopped doing the yoga, and I started feeling like crap again. And so I was like, okay, I know better than this, and obviously my will is stronger than this. So today was the first day that I've done yoga in almost 2 weeks. And I had veggies and quinoa for my meal. So I'm trying to make myself go back to it because I definitely backslid big time.
People will do that. People will. It's a sine wave often. You know how a sine wave will have its upper part or the peak, or in its lower part or the valley, right?
Mm-hmm. So
often the Kundalini practice within the individual looks like a sine wave. You'll have your peak moments, and then you'll have your valleys or your the moments where things are going way down. And so what I would suggest to you is to validate that your Kundalini is kind of talking to you through tactile conversational techniques. and that as soon as you started to clean up your diet and get off the medications and do the yoga, that this pain went away. But it's not saying that it won't come back if you.
Oh no, it's starting to, and that was my wake up call to jump back into it. So that's why today I was like, no playing around. You know, I woke up at 6 a.m, I did an hour of yoga, and I made myself meditate, which I didn't even do when I was doing really well. And I made sure to eat very well today, and I just need to keep up with it. Keep
going with it. It sounds like you're doing very well. Now, regarding a DNS, you know, as I mentioned earlier in the show, this will a custom designed program of a Dark Night Soul for you is in the process of being developed. Okay, whether or not, I mean, if you choose to work on your fears consciously as much as possible, that can negate the necessity of having a DNS. Typically,
I'm
it's for people that are holding
doing
on
that right now.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
now
I'm actually doing that right now.
Go as deep as you can with it, but don't be surprised if Kundalini pulls things from other, you know, from early childhood experiences or pre-life experiences. So don't be surprised, but always, always, always trust your Kundalini. Forget about Chrism. Trust your Kundalini. Trust your Kundalini. I know the Kundalini led you to me, and I understand that, and I accept that responsibility. But for the most part, it is your Kundalini that you want to listen to. She may have you call in like this, or she may have you do certain things, and I use the feminine for that because in the initial periods, just like when a baby is born, it is the sacred feminine that takes care of that child, and it's the same thing with the Kundalini child. When you're just born into the Kundalini, well, your sacred mother takes care of you, and I just really want to give you that advice, to let the sacred mother take care of you and trust her completely. She knows you far better than you know yourself. Okay?
Yes, absolutely. Hello? And I've been trying to listen to your advice and follow it as well as possible, and as long as I've been following it, I've been doing well. It's when I start to doubt it, or when I start to worry, or when I start getting complacent, that I start to backtrack. So thank you very much.
Well, you're very, very, very welcome, and thank you for calling in.
Can I just suggest the safeties, Lauren?
Yes,
have you
sure.
Have you checked the safeties, and do you know how to find them?
Yes, I printed them out, and I started reading them. I have no idea where. I mean, that was 2.5 months ago. I just started. I got so sidetracked. I had people come in town, and then I started going through that whole transformation of basically cleansing out all of the bad crap. And you're right. Okay. Thank you so much for bringing that up, because I'd almost forgotten.
Yeah, well, they are amazing. I mean, the safeties, I would definitely take them out again and read them and begin to bring them into every day, what you do every day, and you will be amazed at how helpful they will be and what comes about because of your commitment to them, you know. It'll be an unfolding and a revelation that will just blow you away, Lauren. I promise. Okay,
I'm sure. I do have... I'm so sorry. Can I ask one quick question?
Mm-hmm.
I read somewhere on the internet, and I do realize that the internet is somewhat inaccurate when it comes to Kundalini. But does it feel almost like you have little tingles all over you sometimes? Like
Sure.
Almost like you have little critters crawling on you?
Oh, yes. They call them electric snakes or electric insects or electric ants. I mean, that is one of the phenomena.
Oh,
and not just on your skin, but under your skin.
Oh, no, that's what it feels like. And there are so many spiders in Germany, and they're sometimes absolutely gigantic. I think they feed them steroids. That I just have this fear that it's spiders crawling all over me.
Well,
And
okay, so
when
let's look at that. Let's look at that. Now, this ties right into the DNS, into the whole fearful scenario, right?
I actually think I knew this, but keep going.
Yeah. The spider is one of the insect forms that the sacred Shakti takes when it shows itself to people. The serpent, the spider, the wolf, the tiger, the lion, the eagle, the condor, even the orca. Mm-hmm. These are top of the line, or shall we say, apex predators. Okay, the spider and the wasp are one that comes to me quite a bit. They also come to other people. They come to entire populations. The Dene people, and that's D-I-N-A with apostrophe after the E. They call her. They're Native Americans. They call her the sacred weaver woman, and she holds the world together with her sacred tapestry. With Kundalini, you may see ginormous spiders. I love that word, ginormous.
I have. See, huge.
Yeah, the size like, 12, 13, 15 inches across. Huge.
Oh, don't tell me that. Don't tell me
Never
that.
mind.
I don't want to hear that. Oh, no. Oh, good Lord.
But
I had a face-off with one for 30 minutes today, and it was like 2.5 inches, and that's like a smaller one.
Oh.
Don't tell me 12 inches. Holy crap. No,
but you have to understand that it's.
I got to face that fear before I see one of those.
That's right. Oh. That's exactly right. That's why I'm bringing it up now. Typically,
which is why I try not to kill them anymore.
Don't kill
anything.
Try
to be friends with them.
Yes,
no,
exactly.
I know. I try. I've come up with natural repellents for the spiders, and I've actually let them live in my house, which was unheard of 2 months ago. And I just say, okay, you stay away from me, I'll stay away from you.
It's exactly what I said.
And sometimes it works.
That's exactly what I said to the 20 black widow spiders that inhabited my very first meditational space. It was the only space that I could do 21 minutes of meditation every day. Actually, it turned into an hour. But I said to them, if you don't bother me, I won't bother you. And they lived up to their word, as did I. Didn't get bothered one time.
The little guys
they've
been listening.
Bothered by a spider since then. I haven't been bothered by a wasp since then. I had a bit of a fear with these paper wasps, these vespids. They hurt when they sting you. And of course, so we have them all over the place out here. And one day I went into a meditation, and I got in touch with one of the queens, one of their sacred mothers, and I said, look, live here, be productive, have a great life here, just don't sting me or any of the students that come here, and I will tell them about you. And they have lived to their word. Check this out. The other night, one of the outside lights went out, and it was in the evening, and I didn't really it's too high up for me to look inside the light to see what was there. I just reached up and I felt this kind of soft tissue. And I pulled my hand out, and there were 16 wasps, and I had just pet a few of them, and they didn't sting me. They didn't even get up, and they didn't do anything. They just left me alone, and I took the light bulb out and I left them alone, and I was very grateful to those wasps for their tolerance of my ignorance of their presence there. So it's very, very cool. The animals are amazing. Don't be afraid of the spiders. Don't be afraid of the serpent.
I'm trying not to. I really have.
It's a process.
And
get yourself a spider.
No, the little ones. That wasn't hard. That wasn't too hard to let the little ones be, and just kind of tell them stuff. But when I start letting the bigger ones that used to paralyze me when I would see them, that I was just like, all right, I'm going to let you go. You do your thing. Just stay away from me. I don't want to see you. And I started doing that.
Another student had the exact same thing, except she has the spiders suspended from the ceiling, large ones, right over her. And she'll have a very, very traumatic dream where she's working through a lot of issues. And she'll wake up from the dream in the morning, and there's that big black spider right above her. And she knows that the Kundalini has given her those dreams in order for her to work through her process. And so she's not so afraid of them, but she was like you, paralyzed in fear of any insect, spider or not. And,
Yeah,
so
I'm kind of like that. My husband
she's
says
doing.
I'm afraid.
So was I, Lauren. So was I. It passes.
Yeah.
It passes. You keep doing what you're doing.
Starting to.
And it's a process.
It's starting to. Yeah, I had heard somewhere that, there was speaking about animal totems, and I know that that might be very, very different, but the basic premise is that, when you've had significant fears about different animals or, significant interactions with them, that's probably a significant animal, insect, something to you. And I had never thought about that. And I've always had a fear of spiders. And I always either had an absolute love of snakes or an absolute fear of snakes. There have been a couple of snakes I just used to let, hang out in my hair. They would, wind up in my bun and just hang out there for hours. But now I'd probably be scared out of my mind if I saw one.
That's pretty cool.
And it was actually kind of cool. I love that, but I don't think I could do that at this point. But once I heard that because you're afraid of this, it's because you've got some kind of correlation, some kind of relationship with this. And I started thinking about the spiders. And I remembered when I was in high school, I had about 10 spider bites all around my eyes, only on one side of my face, but that made my eyes swell up so badly. And I was like, oh my gosh, that was a spider. The spider bit me like crazy all around my eye. That has to be significant.
Well,
right?
It is. It is significant, and it's significant in the way that let me just go in here for a second. It's significant in the way that it's giving your Kundalini a way to scare you, so to speak, if you're to have a DNS. But, if you follow these protocols...
It didn't scare me.
Well, that's good.
Surprisingly.
Good. If you follow these protocols, and anybody in the audience who may have a fear of spiders in that way, if you follow the protocols, you may not have to have a DNS that's based on the current life experience of fears. It may just go into other lifetime experiences of fears. So I want to congratulate you for doing all the work that you've done, and I want to suggest that you continue to do that work. No matter what, you work on those fears. You keep away from that junk food. Okay?
I'm trying.
Yeah, you're doing great. Follow the safeties and do the 5 Tibetans every day. Okay?
5
every
Tibetans,
single day.
And that's on your site as well, right?
Yeah. And go to the videos. The videos have a lot of information in them. And so I want you to suggest to you that you go to the videos and you realize that I don't have a script for anything that I'm doing at all. I've never had a script for the videos. I've never had a script for any of these radios. This is all coming from the Kundalini.
Mm-hmm.
It's all from the Kundalini. And so it's coming from that source to your source and to the source of everyone who is listening to this program. Okay. Lauren, thank you for calling in. Santara, could you go ahead and...
Thank you so much for your help.
You're very welcome. You're very welcome. You had some things that you wanted to say towards the end of the show, Santara.
I did, Chrism. I just wanted to give a quick recap on the seminar that's happening in October in Dublin. The Kundalini Awakening seminar will be led by Chrism. It's on the 18th, 19th, and 20th of October. It begins on the Friday night at 7 o'clock, and it runs through until Sunday at 4. And everybody is most welcome to attend. And if you want if you want to know more about it, please drop me a line to kundalinimatters@gmail.com, or also you can ring me on 00353 086 029 7676, and I will help in any way that I can with your inquiry. It's going to be, the venue is 30 minutes from Dublin Airport in a beautiful setting in the Boyne Valley, which is rich in megalithic passage tombs, and it's a fantastic setting for a Kundalini Awakening seminar. So please get in touch if you have an interest, and we can communicate about it. Thanks, Kristen.
Thank you, Amelia, for making that announcement. Also, I would like to open my email box to anybody that may have an issue or a question about their Kundalini Awakening experience. And that email is K as in Kundalini, FIRE, F-I-R-E, F-O-R-A-L-L, kfireforall@yahoo.com. And I invite any of your questions or inquiries, and I'll try to get back with you as quickly as I can. In the meantime, I will suggest that people go to YouTube or go back here to Blog Talk Radio and listen to the previous conversations. There's a lot of information in there for them. Listen to them over and over and over. This is one of the things that with the Kundalini that comes through when I write an article, it writes the article. And it gives certain levels of information that you won't hear the first time through. You'll only hear it the second or third time through. So just realize that and know that, and give these resources a try. They're not going to cost you anything. A lot of these other Kundalini practitioners, shall we say, or teachers, they'll charge you a lot of money. One of the things that kind of spurred me into doing this was I didn't have any money when my Kundalini came up. I was living on the street. I was a homeless person. So I didn't have, even if there was an internet, which there wasn't, and even if I could have found books, which I couldn't afford to have them. So for those of you that may be in similar positions, I would like to open up this resource to you. If you're able to have a computer or get to a library and watch some of these teachings, then I really, really want to welcome you and invite you to do that. I've got about 8 minutes, so if there's somebody who wants to call in, the number is 347-934-0026. The dark night of the soul is a real thing. When things start to fall away in your life, when your life just starts to take on a really crazy theme, as I said, when the reality matrix falls apart or begins to crumble, and you'll see it first in the peripheral vision, if you're getting a visual like I do. If you're getting a visual, then the deconstruction begins in the peripheral, and then it swings around into your central vision, your central field of vision. So know that, and as Amelia mentioned, you'll hear strange sounds, a lot of strange sounds. Some that are directly designed to frighten you. Don't get into it. But also look for the source of the fear. Why is that strange sound frightening me? Is it just because it's something I don't know about? Is it just because it's strange and therefore it's strange, therefore I'm afraid? Well, discern it out. Figure it out for yourself. Why do you have to be afraid? Is your existence threatened by this noise that you're hearing? No, it's not threatened. Realize that. And once again, trust your Kundalini. Trust your Kundalini with your life, because literally, it has your life in its hands, and it wants you to live. It wants you to live fearlessly.
Hi, Kristen. We have Marilyn on the line, and she has a question for you.
Good. Hello, Marilyn.
Hi, Kristen.
Hey, I want to tell you. Have we been communicating lately?
Yep, same one last week.
Oh, hi, Marilyn. Good to hear you.
Good to hear you, too. I've been watching your videos on YouTube, and I've really enjoyed, especially your DNS videos. I thought they were just right on in terms of what I had been experiencing and what I needed to hear. I really thought they were just right on. I want to thank you very much for those.
Well, congratulations for having the Kundalini to the degree that you can have a DNS.
Well, I'm not sure about that because now I have questions about how you really know that the DNS is testing your fears, which I think it was at one earlier point, which I don't know that it was really a DNS at that point. But how do you know it's not really your negative karma that you are facing from this life and many lives that the DNS is in a Chinese manner all of a sudden throwing at you?
You are dealing with that. It's absolutely true. You're dealing with that karma. That's the point. You're dealing with karma that you cannot consciously bring up for yourself because you weren't that person. You were another person. You were a different person. And that different person developed karma in that lifetime that had bleed over into this lifetime because of the Kundalini awakening. So Kundalini reached back into levels of karma that have been accrued, but not necessarily in this life. And so
some of it could be from this life, couldn't it?
Some of it could be, absolutely. Absolutely. It's really about karma in general, whether the karma was achieved in this life or if it was given in another life. It's all about the karma, the collection of balances that we need to take care of when we're within a Kundalini awakening. This is why I'm giving the safeties out, that the person practicing the safeties should be practicing tolerance, forgiveness, trust, honesty, all of these really positive expressions, so that even when you have the DNS, even when you have it, it doesn't take you to the degree where you're going to hurt yourself or hurt other people because you're so frightened.
Well, I'm frightened of the negative karma that's appearing before me.
Well, look at why you're frightened. Is it gonna hurt you?
It's leading to solid confinement and
sorry, I missed that last word. It's leading to what?
Solitary confinement and to financial problems.
That's not a bad thing. It's not bad confinement. It's a good thing, unless you're in prison.
No, I'm not.
Solitary confinement is a wonderful place to meditate and to get to know yourself in a way that you would never be able to do if you were with define ourselves through our relationships with other people. And the Kundalini is saying, no. Now you can define yourself with your relationship to the divine. And that sometimes takes solitary confinement.
But one of the signals, one of the signs of my DNS was that I seem to have lost my connection with the divine, or lost my awareness of the divine presence, and I'm more likely dwelling in a perpetual awareness of an acute loss that I had before, and I'm experiencing grief from that.
Well, the scenario with that is that Kundalini knows that it has an amplification effect on people and their emotions and their fear and their love and all of these levels of attachment, of emotional attachment that we can develop. It knows that it has an amplification effect. And so it can pull back as it brings you into these other levels of emotional balance where these issues that you have are being worked on. So trust the Kundalini. It has never left you, and it won't. It's just not always going to feel tactile the same way that it has from the start. Okay?
Yes.
All right, now, we're going to get cut off here. We're down to a minute, and I want to thank you, Marilyn. And Marilyn, let's go ahead and have that phone conversation. Would you send me an email?
Yes,
send me an email
with
those numbers again. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much. I would like that. Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
And everybody, Santara and everybody who is listening now, who's called in, thank you for calling in. everybody who's listening in the future in the archives, thank you for listening. And may you have a beautiful, blessed day on this September 11th, 2013. Thanks for listening.